Good morning, friends. It's good to be here this morning. You're with Journey Home Meditation, and this is the morning sit. I am Michael. I'm going to be here today sharing some thoughts, maybe reading a little poetry, and we'll be doing some breathing together and a little meditation. And I'm happy to be here to do all of that today with you. So how do you maintain your practice when everything in your body just says, I don't want to? I think we all are familiar with this feeling. It's kind of like you're just cruising along and all of a sudden the floor just drops out from underneath you. Like you wake up one day and you've got zero motivation. And in fact, the little gremlins in your brain are saying, no, don't do it. What good is it? It's not doing you any good. Clearly you woke up feeling like a pile of melted garbage. So don't do this stupid practice. Yeah. That's what my gremlins say. They don't actually use that ridiculous cartoon voice, but I was emphasizing the way it feels, this is the way it feels to me. Silliness aside, actually, no, not silliness aside. Let's include every bit of silliness we can. The truth is that even the most devoted practices that we have, sometimes we come upon them and we get these feelings that I know it might do me some good, but I just don't feel like it right now. And you may even be doing the practice regularly, and you may come across these lulls in your practice, these sort of slumps, and you may be doing your practice every day, but you're not achieving the same experience and the same level of depth, perhaps, in your meditation, or maybe you're not coming out of this with any amazing, revelatory, enlightening thoughts that are following up. Whatever it is, it's important, I think, to remember that this practice is not a practice that is utilitarian, in that it's not a what is that called when we have like an exchange-based practice where I purchase something and then I get the thing that I want? I don't know what that's called. There's a word for it that's a really beautiful word, and it would sum up exactly all of the thoughts that I have right now, and I just can't grasp the word. But essentially, this practice is not one that you get an immediate gratification from, necessarily. And you may sit and you may go into a little bit of conscious mindful breathing. You may bring your body into a place of calm and silence and stillness. You may be able to successfully detach without dissociating from the sensations of the body, the thoughts of the mind, whatever it may be. You may be able to successfully do all of that, but if you start doing the practice and you come into those places that you can't receive that, it's not that the practice isn't doing what the practice is to do. It may just be that you are not prepared to not feel some sort of reward, because we live in this sort of reward-based culture right now. We even view the ways that our body responds to certain stimulus as a reward. We talk about getting your dopamine reward. Uh, we talk about all the rewards that you receive from your workouts. And this is really no different. It's not like every time you sit down on the mat and do hatha yoga or perform asanas for an hour or two, it's not like every time you come out of that and you feel like, this super empowered being. Sometimes you just feel a little tired. Sometimes you just feel a bit stretched open. Sometimes maybe you even overdo it a little bit and you need to actually take a step back within that practice. And this is why there are so many different styles of physical body yoga practices, right? When you are maybe hitting it too hard with the Ashtanga yoga or the Hatha yoga, and your body kind of reaches a plateau, a peak for a little bit that you sort of level out on, or even start to slump down. Maybe you can't quite hold your down dog. That one of the elementary poses, maybe you can't quite hold it for as long as you used to be able to for some reason all of a sudden. Maybe you're not able to do an inversion pose, or you have some injury, so your body is straying away from some of the other positions you might want to be in. The irresponsible thing to do would be to say, well, do that thing even more, do it harder, do it, uh, overstretch even more, push yourself even farther. Like we are not here to punish ourselves. This is a nonviolent practice. It's a nonviolent yoga. Uh, this meditation, this breath work, these introspective contemplations that we share, the questions that we come up with for each other, the ways in which we can communicate our human experience to one another. These are nonviolent practices. And what I mean by that is we're here first to come into union. We're not here to um, separate ourselves or one another based upon our skill or ability. And we're not going to do that to ourselves, right? We're not going to push ourselves into places of danger or harm based on our insecurities or fears built upon a foundation of comparison. And that means that we can't even compare our own experience to our own experience, right? So, how does this apply to the meditation practice? Is that it's the same thing. Like, some days you may have years, months, weeks, however long it is, of really ecstatic, empowered feelings after a meditation session. Maybe you're practicing 3 times a day, 20 minutes each session. Maybe you're just doing it once a day for 10 minutes. Maybe you're finding space and exploring the long form meditation of hours at a time when you have days set aside to do this. Whatever it is, you may, for a long period, really start getting in and opening these places up and feeling, oh, this is immediately beneficial to me. You'll start to feel all of those immediate benefits. But then there may come a time in your practice, and you maybe are already feeling this or have felt this in the past, and it took you away from your practice for some time. So many people I talk to will say, oh, yeah, when I was younger, I could meditate and sit in full lotus for hours. And now, I'm just so stressed out and busy. I just don't have the time, and I can't really focus when I meditate, even for 10 minutes. But to each their own, I guess. I'm like, yeah, sure. I mean, yes, absolutely, to each their own. But I'm wondering if, and I know that this happens with me, if when you're not reaching the exact same level of what we view as reward from your practice, if you think somehow this isn't working, so you abandon it, or you start to think that maybe it works for others, but this doesn't work for me. So because you never quite found the hermit's joy or whatever it is, uh, and you're not applying to be a monk at some abbey anywhere anytime soon. But that doesn't mean that even just a few moments throughout your day of mindful breathing and meditative practices aren't actually extremely beneficial to you. If only that you're stepping away from your engagement with others and your engagement with your own thoughts for just a few minutes. If it doesn't feel great, that's okay. The reward doesn't have to be ecstatic glee. The reward comes in the form of gratitude. And gratitude is simply being present without looking away, without turning away, even when you don't find it to be pleasurable, you find it to be fulfilling and brings a level of wholeness. And it may not look the same each day. And it may not look the same in your practice today as it looked in the past. And it may not look the same in the future as it looks today. But this is the practice. The practice is simply to be in this moment with what is. And if you're experiencing, such as things that I experience, these down periods, these lulls in your body, I don't want to diagnose it as, depression, um, right off the bat, because we're so quick to move towards these prognoses and these diagnoses as gospel, right? Oh, you have this and this and this, you must be depressed. Well, maybe. I'm not here to undiagnose you or to diagnose you, but what if it's not a matter of not knowing how to be happy? What if it's a matter of not knowing how to be bored? What if it's a matter of not knowing how to be miserable? Not knowing how to sit with not knowing. These things, these feelings that are decidedly uncomfortable. you know, no, I don't think very many of us like to sit and feel um, isolation or loneliness. Not many of us like to feel hopelessness or separation from wholeness. Not many of us are comfortable even feeling like you levels of uselessness. Like I have no there is no focus in my life. These kind of feelings that can come up for us, those are uncomfortable feelings. But that doesn't mean that you don't know how to be happy in those moments because you're not happy. You do know how to be happy. When you're happy, you're very good at it. You revel in it. And in fact, you might spend a little too much of your time chasing that or trying to maintain that artificially. uh, but when you're in these places that are, I don't want to compare like lows and highs and, or goods and bads. Like I want to get as far away from those comparisons as we can. But when you're in these places of discomfort and these places of um, melancholy, it could be diagnosable. Sure. We might want to throw a prognosis on there. We might want to pathologize our feelings, or we could also just sit with what is and really find the intricacies of the experience, because sometimes that's where we need to really be in a magnified sense. We really need to focus in on that feeling that we're having in that moment, that discomfort, that feeling of hopelessness, um, the feeling of fear, fear for what is to come, fear for what might be. And this affects all of us. I know it does. I know it affects me. And so you might be facing something in your life that is bringing up these feelings for you. The last thing that I would suggest to a person who is approaching those feelings and those ways of being would be to run as quickly away from that as you can. escape from that. No, I don't know that that's going to do you any good. It's never done me any good. As fast as I could try to run from myself, I was always there when I'd stop. Every time, every time. And I spent a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of effort and energy and hurt a lot of people and hurt myself many times trying to get as fast as I could away from who I am or who I think I am. And every time I was right there. And then I realized that it's not me that's harming me. It's me that's causing harm by rejecting these feelings and these sensations that that I am just underneath. I am just underneath those feelings. I am one thought away from being there with me in a way that feels okay, feels safe, and it has purpose. So even in those times when you're feeling like you don't have purpose, or those times when you are worried that your purpose for being here is simply to suffer, uh, whatever it is, it's in this practice that you have practiced. It's in this sitting in stillness and silence that we can really peel away even that to get to who we truly are. Even that can peel away. But it doesn't peel away by rejecting it. And we're not getting rid of it. We're not discarding it. We're just opening like the petals of a lotus, right? The thousand petals of a lotus are opening one upon another and another and another. And as soon as one layer starts to open, boom, from inside comes another layer and another layer and another layer. And we're in there. And I'm sure that many of you have heard the famous phrase that teacher Thich Nhat Hanh, uh, would would share often is no mud, no lotus. Right? The lotus, this beautiful flower that uh, has come to signify or symbolize knowledge and wisdom, and is beautiful to the eye. Has a long root that goes down, and its root can only come forth out of the mud. And this is the way Thich Nhat Hanh showed us that the lotus is teaching us that when you're in your darkest places, this is where the seed is germinated, and we can come out of that. We are not the mud, but we may come out of it. But it's a tricky irony that trying to escape it will never get you out of it. It's only by going through it. And that includes our ability to keep our practice. And of course, this is not about some militarized level of discipline. Not for me. Some it is. There's a lot in the Zen teachings and the Zen practices and lineages. These are lineage-based teachings, and some of the lineage are based on military structure. A lot of the Zen temples are based on that structure of hierarchy and discipline and obedience. And there is obviously there is going to be um, deep lessons that are able to be learned in that way. But for me right now, and the thing that I'm sharing that I'm working with in this moment, which is subject to change, is not a shame or guilt or um, force-based practice, but I want to invite myself in every day. And this morning I woke up around 4:30 in the morning, and I've been sleeping outside because it's just so lovely up where I live, and I'm sleeping under the stars. I actually set up an old canopy frame and covered it with mosquito netting so I could have a bougie place to sleep outdoors. And um, I woke up early this morning and I didn't speak and I didn't look at my phone. I didn't do any of the things I normally do where I rush to get out of bed and do my morning practices, my hygiene, use the restroom, blah blah blah. I woke up and I awoke out of a dream life that was fraught with sadness and had levels of fear and anxiety and shame and embarrassment built into it. And I don't know exactly what it was. And I don't think the details are even important. It's the sensations and the feelings that we carry from our experiences that live longer than the details of the story. But I awoke with these really just filled with these feelings. And because of my practice, I simply sat up and I shrouded myself with the wool blanket that I was sleeping with, and I sat with that and I cried and I opened myself to the sound of the morning birds and I felt this forlorn feeling, this this sadness for something I could not describe, this grief of a loss of something I wasn't aware that I lost, or this um, pining for something I could not attain. And I wanted to run away from it. I wanted to run. I wanted to put on happy music and sing songs, and I wanted to convince myself that all I needed was something to eat or that I should do all my stuff. And all of that is true. Food would change your body's feeling in that moment. Yes. Drinking water. Yes, that would change. Yes. Washing, doing my hygiene, all of those things. Yes, it would take me out of that space, but I felt this calling to be in that space and sit in that space. So I did. And I could not find that place of detachment. So I just went into the attachment. And I'm not going to report that it was a this Yelp review style of amazing transformation, 10 out of 10 would do again. But I just wanted to share that it's okay to keep your practice even when your practice isn't as rewarding as you think it should be. And utilizing the tools of the practice that we don't often get to use is so beneficial. It's so very beneficial. So pulling that tool out, that how do you sit and revel in discomfort? How do you sit and become more and more enraptured in your fear and your desire to reject? And I think for me, that's just becoming curious. You just have to become curious. And we know that we have the tools to do this by keeping this daily practice. So even on the days that I don't feel like doing this, doing it brings me into an even larger space of awareness of what I am made of, what all of the things that I carry. It's like we're all these pack rats, these these animals that pack everything in, pack it all in, and we carry it through our life. And if we're not aware of what we're carrying, we can get bogged down easily and we can become resentful about the weight that's on our shoulders. And we can start to be convinced that that weight is only mine. This is my burden to bear. It's not yours. And you can start to think that you're somehow separate when we know better than this. What we know is that we are not able to be separate. And what I know is that self-compassion doesn't really exist, because the only compassion that exists by its very nature has to include the self and everything. If it doesn't, then it's not compassion. And that's not a judgment like, oh, you're not actually compassionate. No, what I'm saying is, if your compassion doesn't inherently include this level of respect and honor and reverence for your own experience, along with this respect, honor, and reverence for the experience that others are sharing with you, even if it's way different than yours, if it doesn't include you, then it's not really compassion. We can be helpers. We can get out there and we can help and we can help and we can help. But unless we are including ourself as a part of that equation, not as the one bestowing upon others the good graces, but as one who is being graced with all of this, and then it's not compassion. And so if I can't sit, even in the times when it's uncomfortable and boring, and even when it doesn't seem rewarding, then I'm not sure that I'm actually ready to approach the depths of who I really am. And that's okay. If that's where you're at, that's okay. That's not a pity judgment like, well, it's okay if you're not at my level. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is, be kind to yourself first and foremost, but also trust that you can do difficult things. You can do difficult things. Okay, friends. All of that, I honestly sat down and I said, this morning, Sid, I'm going to just talk about for a moment what it's like to not feel like doing this every day, and then just get people into the practice, and we'll just do it together. And it'll be a 10-15 minute clip this morning, and that's it. And then I'll move on with my day. 30 minutes of blabbering on later. And here we are. But I'm grateful to be able to have that exploration, that space to figure out how to put words to the things that are occurring inside of my body. And it's almost like my mouth is placed between my brain and my heart for a reason. It's like the hot and cold water faucets. When you get the right mix of what I think and what I feel, then I can really open up and start to understand myself a little better. But sometimes it takes a lot of useless blabbering just to get there. So I guess it's not useless after all. It's funny because we would never call all the water that comes down the stream that doesn't have the fish we are waiting for useless. We would never look at the water like that. We would never call that long incubation period of the fruits as we water them and tend to the soil in our gardens. We would never say that that period was useless. We know that this is all part of a beautiful process of becoming. So why do I even joke about that with myself? I don't know if my body actually knows that I'm joking. I don't know if our bodies know that we're joking when we are mean and dismissive of ourselves. So just for today, I'm going to assume that it does not know that I'm joking, and I'm going to speak with sincerity. I am really, really grateful. I am really, really grateful. I have so much gratitude to be in this body, even if this body is becoming weak or sick or Even if this body's not long for this world, I have so much gratitude to be in it. And that's the practice today. So let's bring ourselves into a position to facilitate breath. This practice is a devotional practice to breathing. So if you're seated as I am in a chair, you can breathe in and lengthen that spine, straighten that back as much as you can. Really feel the opening of your ribs as you come out of the smashed down and crouched posture and change your posture to open up to receive breath. You can have your feet flat to the floor or your legs crossed in any number of ways. Whatever it is you're doing, find balance in your body so that with balance you can move forward with the least amount of stress or strain, and just breathe in through the nose to fill that belly. Take this moment to feel your body as it opens and as it closes. Just let your shoulders relax and bring your shoulder blades together just a touch in the back. Feel how that shifts the breath. All of these tiny movements right at the pivot point. This creates the greatest amount of movement the farther away it gets. Really just let go of all of your self-belief, all of your thought, and just feel the beauty of that one breath. We are so blessed. We are so blessed. Thank you so much, friends, for being here this morning. Thanks for joining in on the journey home today. Find your blessing. And as a word nerd, I can't help but hear the word lesson in the word blessing. I can't help but think about all of the things I thought should not be ended up becoming a blessing to me. So as much as I don't want to be here sometimes in these moments, as much as I don't want to sit down and have these breaths, as much as I'd like to have an extra half hour of sleep or whatever it is, I am ever grateful for the times that I can actually get to this space. And that includes this space right now at this desk with this microphone and this camera and being able to communicate this to you, but it also just includes this space of receiving, when I can let myself receive. In any moment. I'm just happy to be here. Thanks, friends. We'll see you more this week. Feel free to reach out to me at journeyhomemeditation@gmail.com. You can find us, follow us, like us, support us on Apple Podcast, on Spotify, on Audible. You can find these videos on YouTube or floating around on Facebook groups. You can share any of this with anyone you'd like. I'm just happy to do it. Hariom.